We're joined by the Ferris State Bulldogs, the number 4 seed in the West Region with a record of 19-14-6, and the champions of the WCHA Final Five. We're joined by head coach Bob Daniels in his 24th season, and defenseman Simon Denis, and forward Kyle Schempp. Coach, if you could just open it up with a opening statement, please.
Sure. Well, obviously we're thrilled to be here, and while it was a bit of a unknown that we would make it here, I can say we did feel confident going into the playoffs. For whatever reason, these guys can back me up on it, but just had a really good feeling about where we were as a team and going into the WCHA Final Five, and we're pretty excited to be representing the WCHA in the tournament, and hopefully we'll have a nice long run.
Okay, now we'll open up to questions for the coach and the student athletes. If you could just raise your hand, and we'll bring a microphone to you. And then if you could state your name and affiliation.
Dan Myers, College Hockey News. Bob, how important is it going to be to stay out of the penalty box against St. Cloud with the power play, firepower they have? Sure.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. It's been a thing we've been really hitting on since the start of the season, when I would say the first couple of months we ended up in the box a lot more than we wanted to. Broke down some stats for the team to show them what our penalty kill is when we hold teams to 4 or less power plays versus what our penalty kills when they're 4 or more. Our winning percentage when our penalty minutes are down versus our winning percentage when they're up. We did it over like a 3 or 4 year period, and it was an eye opener to me when we started digging into those numbers, and I think it was for the guys. So that's been something we've been on, and we've really done a good job, with the exception of a 5-minute major we took in the finals of the WCHA, and you know, it was obviously not intended, but nevertheless that could have been very costly. So I think the point's been driven home. Now you add to that the fact that St. Cloud has a terrific power play. I think they're operating at 29% and change, and that's pretty gaudy. So obviously we do have a good penalty kill, but it's only good when it's not overly taxed, and so penalty minutes need to be down for us.
Nathan Wells, SB Nation College Hockey. This is for either of the players. What does a weekend like last weekend, where you knew that you had to win it all, do for your confidence coming into this weekend?
It does a lot. It does a lot for us. Obviously, you know, we have 7 seniors on our team, and you know, we're very aware that any game can be our last, and that was big going into last weekend. And you know, we've really driven home the fact that this whole second half of the season we've been playing really good hockey, and you know, we don't necessarily count our wins on losses on paper. You know, it's kind of how we play the game, how we've developed throughout the season, especially in the second half of the year. So we had a lot of confidence going into last weekend, just especially being in Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, only 45 minutes away from school. We knew we were going to have that kind of hometown flavor and stuff like that. So we knew what we needed to do, and we were very, very confident going into that weekend.
Coach Chase Frederick, Pioneer Press. What's the mindset coming in as a 4 seed going up against a 1? Obviously, in the past, it seemed to be a heavy underdog role, but I mean, in recent years, it seems like it's been more of a coin flip.
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think, you know, at least in my opinion, the hardest part about this tournament is getting in. I mean, that is really difficult. Once you're in, then it seems as though there's opportunities for all teams. You look no further than the number of 4 seeds that have moved on to the Frozen Four. Then, you know, I think it was Yale might have been the 16 seed the year they won it. So, I mean, the hardest part's getting here, and I do think we can derive quite a bit of confidence from how we've been playing, and in particular last weekend against really 2 very formidable opponents in Michigan Tech and Minnesota State. Those are as good a teams as we've seen throughout the year, and so we will take an awful lot of confidence from those games moving forward. But it really is, my feeling's always been, the hardest part about this tournament's getting in, and then once you're in, you just take it, you know, you just try to survive. You just worry about one game, that's it. You don't think about, hey, how do you go about winning this? You just think about, hey, how do we go about winning the next game? And so all your focus and energy just kind of gets zeroed in on one specific opponent and one specific game.
Kyle, what was the recipe for success last week? I mean, you guys had a couple low-scoring games. Do you feel that may be a formula you need to have some success here this weekend?
Yeah, no, definitely, especially with the firepower St. Cloud brings. It's, we gave up one goal last weekend, and that's credit to our defenseman, especially our senior defenseman and Darren Smith back there being our backbone for quite some time now. It's a trend we're looking to continue, and we have to continue to be successful.
Mick Hatton from the St. Cloud Times. Simon, key things, I guess, when you look at St. Cloud State on film, and things that you guys think will be keys, I guess, to the game tomorrow.
Like Kyle was just saying, we know they have a lot of offensive firepower, so we really just need to bear down defensively. We did a good job of that last weekend. People might look at Darren Smith. He's a freshman. He's a younger guy, but we have all the confidence in the world in him. He's playing like he's been here before, and that's the kind of goaltender you need in this kind of situation. And you have to give St. Cloud a lot of credit. I mean, they've been a national power the entire season. There's obviously a reason they're the #1 seed in this region, but we don't overlook it by any means. We accept the underdog role, and gladly. We're happy to be that role. And St. Cloud's a very good hockey team, but we feel like as though if we play our game, that we'll be just fine.
Bob, in terms of possession and shots on goal, do you see any similarities between a team like St. Cloud State and Minnesota State, who I think you held 13 or 14 shots last Saturday?
Well, I think they both can score goals. I think they go about it a bit differently. And I'm saying that not by firsthand observation of St. Cloud. This is all coming off of tape and that sort of observation, where I think Minnesota State is a team that really tries to pressure you into errors and mistakes. I think St. Cloud, what I was really surprised watching the tape on them is how good they are defensively for a team that scores that much. But their defense is what, in my opinion, allows for their offensive production. They are positionally sound. When you make a mistake, you turn the puck over. They've got a wealth of talent, and they transition it, and pretty much every line rush is a scoring opportunity for them. Where I thought Minnesota State might be a little heavier in the offensive zone in terms of forcing errors in the offensive zone, I think St. Cloud, given that their ability on the line rush is so good, they're willing to maybe give up the offensive zone, obtain the puck in the neutral zone, and then rely on their line rush. And so they're even though they're both could score, it's not as though they're similar type teams.
Kyle, Bob hit on this a little bit earlier, but when you see a team like Providence last year win it all as a 15 seed, Yale's won it as a low seed, does that give you guys even more belief, as you start this journey here at the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I bring it back to last weekend again. I just had the feeling that we weren't going to be denied, even though we were a 4 seed last weekend and we beat 1 and 2 to make it here. So it's we have to have that same sense of pride and willing to not be denied kind of attitude.
Simon, a lot is made, I think, of you guys defensively. Talk about your team a little bit offensively. What are things that, when you guys are going well, you guys are doing well against your opponent?
A lot of our stuff generating the offensive zone comes from down low play. Our forwards do a very good job in the corners, battling in front of the net. That's something we've really emphasized the entire season is winning battles in front of both nets. And obviously, from a defensive standpoint, we've done a good job of that lately, but from an offensive standpoint, we have as well. Multiple of our goals have come from hard work in front of the net. Last weekend, we scored, the championship game. Our first goal was a good shot from the point, but it was from a great screen from Van Wormer in front of the net. The second goal, actually, Van Wormer was working just as hard in front of the net in order to draw a penalty shot. So that's a big part of us. That's a big way we contribute our offensive end, is just those battles in front of the net and getting shots through and whatever we need to do to basically bang home a goal. It's not going to be pretty, but whatever is going to work for us to make sure we ensure the puck's in the net.
Bob, what do you attribute your team and really your program's good goaltending to? Because, it seems like no matter who you have back there, one guy comes in, graduates, next guy comes in, has great success, graduates. You always have great talent back there.
Boy, you're right about that. We've been really fortunate. One thing, certainly in the long run, and I look back between, it was Pat Nagel to Taylor Nelson to C.J. Mott, now to Darren Smith. But one of the common themes is Drew Familak, our chief recruiter, does an outstanding job. He's got a good eye for goaltenders. He knows which ones kind of will meld into our system, if you will, and he does an outstanding job of bringing those kids in. I think in specifically talking about Darren, a couple things help. Number one, we do have 4 senior defensemen, so there's a wealth of experience on our back end. And the fact, too, that Darren's personality, at least in my opinion, the guys might differ with my opinion, but C.J. Mott, the previous goaltender, and Darren, their personalities are strikingly similar. They're both very cool, calm, collected guys. Nothing really rattles them. They're both very quiet. I think their style in goal is very similar, where they're really technically solid goaltenders, and I think they both move the puck pretty well in terms of making decisions. Now, they don't necessarily fire it up ice to send us in on a breakaway, but the small area chips that they make, their decision-making is pretty solid. So we've got this group of 4 senior defensemen, and all of a sudden a new goaltender behind them. In some ways, it was like, CJ reincarnated. It's a very similar type goaltender.